Officially, there never was a clone rebellion on Kamino. Unofficially, 20 years after they were created, the 501st Legion were sent to destroy the birthplace of the clone army and kill their brothers. How do you cover up a war that never officially happened? How do you wipe clean the blood spilled by your own hand, when the hand pulling the trigger looks exactly like the one falling to the ground? In 12 BBY, the Galactic Empire deployed the 501st Legion to Kamino, the very world that birthed the Grand Army of the Republic, to crush a rebellion grown not by separatists or Jedi, but by the Kaminoans themselves. In secret, they had begun producing a new generation of Fett clones, not for the Empire, but against it. This is the untold story of betrayal, brotherhood, and the day Kamino nearly broke the Empire from within. Today we dive deep into the Battle of Kamino, the clone uprising that Palpatine tried to erase from the archives of history. Lama Su, the Prime Minister of Kamino, said, "So Palpatine has a new army. I have no doubt he'll find our cloning operations a threat one day soon." After the execution of Order 66, Kamino was no longer the heart of the Republic's war machine. It became the prison of its legacy. Under the newly formed Empire, Kamino fell under strict surveillance. Though the Empire relied on the Kaminoan cloning technology to sustain its ranks, the loyalty between client and contractor had decayed. The Empire believed the Kaminoans were subservient, but behind the glossy walls of Tipoca City, a rogue sect of Kaminoan scientists, known as the Clone Masters, had other plans. They did not hand over all of Jango Fett's DNA. Resentful of Palpatine's control and disillusioned with the Empire's cold bureaucracy, the Clone Masters initiated a secret project, an anti-imperial clone army, grown in secret beneath the very waves of Tipoca City. These new clones were loyal to Kamino, not the Empire, and like their predecessors, they were grown from the DNA of Jango Fett. Equipped with Phase 1 armour and highly trained as jet troopers and rail arc commandos, this new generation of soldiers was not an echo of the past. They were a rebellion in the making. But why return to older gear and armour? The Phase 1 design was a symbolic rejection of Imperial standardization and a callback to the purity of the original clone brotherhood, one untouched by the Empire's tampering. The insurrection didn't come from separatists or Jedi remnants. It came from within the clone legacy itself. When word of the uprising reached Emperor Palpatine, he did not send a Jedi. He did not even send a Grand Moff. He sent the 501st. And leading the charge was someone who knew the facility better than any Imperial officer: Boba Fett. A clone himself, unaltered and trained under his father Jango, Boba had grown up walking the halls of Tipoca City. Now he would return to burn it to the ground. Deployed via Sentinel-class landing craft, the 501st launched a full-scale invasion of Kamino. Stormtroopers, many of whom were Fett cloned themselves, descended on the platforms of Tipoca City to fight what was, quite literally, their own reflection. The battle wasn't just tactical, it was psychological. Clones faced off against clones. Brothers turned rifles on brothers. While stormtroopers fought across the city's outer platforms, Boba Fett slipped into the depths of the cloning facility. His first target, the door control consoles that kept the cloning chambers locked down. Once inside, Fett eliminated the facility's security and retrieved the last known viable sample of Jango Fett's DNA template. With the DNA recovered, Fett delivered it to the landing craft for extraction, but his mission was not over. Fett re-entered the facility and executed a critical strike on Kamino's cloning infrastructure, destroying the life support systems in the lower levels, effectively murdering the next generation of anti-Imperial clones before they could even take their first breath. This was not war, it was sterilization, an erasure of resistance before it could become memory. Outside, the battle raged. The rogue Kaminoan clones made their final stand on the landing platforms, jetpacks igniting against the blaster fire and TIE fighters strafing runs. As the anti-Imperial forces were driven back, the Kaminoan leadership attempted to escape in 2 low-altitude assault transports, but Imperial shock troopers were ready. With well-timed rocket fire and turret bombardments, both ships were blasted from the sky, taking the resistance leaders with them into the Kaminoan seas. The uprising was over. Tipoca City remained in Imperial hands, but the cost of victory was never recorded. Officially, there was no battle. The Empire, having crushed the uprising, responded with swift policy changes. Emperor Palpatine ordered a complete overhaul of the Imperial cloning program. No longer would the Empire rely solely on the Jango Fett template. Henceforth, stormtroopers would be cloned from a variety of genetic templates, and eventually replaced by birth-born conscripts. The move diversified the Imperial army, but fractured its unity. The 501st remained pure, but as one clone wrote, "We never really got used to the new guys." Most of the surviving Kaminoan leaders were imprisoned on the Death Star. During the Death Star uprising, many would die, fighting beside captured rebel prisoners. Their rebellion had failed, but their message echoed across time. Even the clones could say no. The Battle of Kamino is one of the most tragic stories in all of Star Wars Legends. A tale not of rebellion, but of identity. It wasn't about politics. It wasn't about Jedi. It was about who the clones truly were when the war was over. When the orders were gone. When loyalty conflicted with conscience. And for the Empire, it was a message too dangerous to let survive. What if the Kamino uprising had been successful? What if the Empire had not been undone by rebels or Jedi, but by the very army it built? But what do you think? Should the Empire ever have moved away from the clones? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, like, subscribe and join us next week for another deep dive into the archives. If you are enjoying the videos, become a member and let's uncover the galaxy's biggest secrets together. Thanks for watching.